When you go to your first firearms class, it can be intimidating. What should you wear? Should you buy anything first? What's proper etiquette? What if you don't have the 4 rules of gun safety seared into your soul? Let's talk about it next.
But first, self-defense and emergencies can happen to anyone, and there's no guarantee that the justice system will be on your side. Make sure you are protected for the legal battle after your self-defense battle. While you protect your family and property, U.S. Law Shield is here to defend you 24/7, 365 days a year with comprehensive self-defense coverage at an affordable price. Bad guys don't take days off, and neither does our coverage. Hey, listeners, you can get a free T-shirt when you use the code Gun Owners Radio. Sign up today. Go to uslawshield.com. Hey, Bill, how's it going?
Very good, sir.
Haven't seen you in a while. Everything good?
Good to be seen.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, no kidding. How are the classes?
Classes
Full?
are good. They're mostly full. A lot of private lessons going on. A lot of range training. A lot of people getting training, beginner, intermediate, and advanced training.
Are you seeing more and more private lessons?
I am personally, because I actually like private lessons a little bit better. They're more individualized to the student.
Yeah.
A lot of times people get lost in a group class.
Right.
Or what happens is the group class tends to focus on the lowest common denominator. So whoever needs the most help gets the most help.
Right.
Everybody else occasionally gets ignored or doesn't get a lot of attention. So if you're doing well, you just keep doing well. And then whoever has a safety issue or a real problem with their fundamentals, that's who gets most of the attention.
So if you either join the group or do it individually, how much of a cost difference is it? If you don't have to give me a dollar amount. I mean, is it huge? Is it small?
I'd like to say it's substantial.
Okay.
So yeah, it's different. It's
Well,
much
the reason
more
I say
affordable,
it,
yeah.
I mean, because it's a one-on-one, right?
Yeah. It's one-on-one. I have a lot of the folks I have, it's not a monetary issue. It's more of a like, hey, I want to learn this without a group of other people there. I want to learn without 27 other questions. I have my own 27 questions, and I want to focus on my specifics. And also, there's a variety of reasons people get into shooting, from competition, self-defense, home defense, personal protection, just want to learn how to shoot, but I'm not going to buy a gun.
Right.
There's a variety of different things, but most of it, I say 95% of it is mindset or a mental acceptance that, hey, the police may not show up and I may have to protect myself.
Right.
And this baseball bat or this can of pepper spray or whatever other method you have planned isn't a full plan. I want to include a firearm, but that's a vastly personal decision for people to make.
Well, it seems to me I would almost rather do a one-on-one. I mean,
I've seen the way you shoot. You should
yeah, I
definitely
know.
do it.
Yeah, definitely. But it just seems to me, because you're right, when you're doing a big major group, you're trying to cover all the bases.
Yeah, and what you're typically doing is you're force feeding a whole bunch of information
Right.
to a different audience. You don't get the validation that everybody's understood everything. In a one-on-one or even a small group, I get a lot of couples, husband and wife, father, son, mother, daughter, folks that will come out, or the whole family. And in that group, you can really validate that people are getting the information. And because it's one-on-one or one-on-two like that, it's very we see a lot faster learning curve. So that means you get more information, you absorb it better, you retain it better, and you follow through with it better. So you can not just learn the words or how to do it, you actually can apply it
Right.
much quicker than in a series of group classes.
How long do your classes go, say, between a group and an individual?
So our group classes are typically 8 hours for the initial permit class or initial class like that, or a renewal class is 4 hours. And then for private lessons, I do 2-hour lessons is kind of the minimum on the indoor range. I'll do 2 or 3 hours. On the outdoor range, it's typically 4 hours or longer.
Okay.
And I have people do, just did a 6-hour class for long range rifle. So, but there's a lot of math involved. There's
Yeah.
computers. There's
I'm not doing
all
that.
kinds of good
I'm
stuff
just gonna
involved
shoot.
there. But just shooting guns, 4 hours is kind of a good time period, because after that, people start to fatigue a little bit. They get a little bit tired. They lose mental clarity and focus. So that's kind of a good time frame that I see on the outdoor range. And then some people are just, more interested in or more focused, so they'll stick it out for 5 or 6 hours
Right.
on an outdoor range. After 6 hours, especially one-on-one like that, because you're doing more individual shooting. You're actually shooting more rounds or getting more instruction individually. After that, your brain gets full. You get tired. Again, you start to fatigue. So I don't typically do that, although I've had guys come down and do 3 8-hour classes in a row, private one-day classes in a row.
Wow.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
What's the most, but you've been doing this like 150 years.
No, it's only actually been 30 years.
30 years.
50 years.
What's the most motivating thing about it? What do you, because you've had thousands of students over 30 years. Lots changed in the last 30 years. Lots changed in the last 5 years. What's like the one thing that you're just like, man, that's, what really gets you motivated?
What really drives me is seeing the progress of people that go from, and I've had people go from being terrified of guns, like actually crying while they're waiting to go on the range, crying and sobbing hysterically.
I did.
Hopefully before the range. I think that was you, wasn't it? And then I've had people, start crying while they're on the range, or just get really upset, or it brings back, it flashes back to a really negative memory or negative past experience. And then they work through that, but then to see the progress or how they grow in that short period of time, and it could just be, an hour in the classroom, an hour on the range, and all of a sudden they're like motivated, they're competent, and they're confident. So they've developed some competence. They're capable of using the gun, safely operating it, manipulating it. They know the basics, and they can hit the target. And it's the realization that they can do it, and that maybe they can do it well, that really, that's my value.
Do you have stories? You must have at least one, a story where, you taught somebody or made them better, took them to a competition, whatever, private class, got them into guns. Somehow you were responsible for them being a gun owner or a CCW holder or both. And they came back later and said, you're not going to believe this. I had to actually defend myself.
Yes, I have had that occur. I've also had it occur where they say, my wife hates you because now I have so many guns. Yeah. And they didn't have any guns.
Which one of those two is more rewarding?
I'd say more rewarding is but just a good example, I trained a group of Marines out at 29 Palms. And it was just a multi-state CCW permit class. They're getting like Utah or Arizona permits to carry out of state. And this guy was heading back to Texas. He called me up from the road and said, hey, I pulled over at a gas station. It was late at night in the middle of nowhere. And, I had my gun on. And as he was pumping his gas, a guy approached him like out of the bushes, out of nowhere, just came wandering up, and he's like looking at him. He's thinking, that's kind of weird. So he steps back, and as he steps back behind his truck, he sees another guy sneaking up on him from the side.
Whoa! He
draws his gun, points it at the first guy, the guy that's closer to him, and that guy stands up and runs away. He points it at the other guy. They both run away. There's no attendant at the gas station. It's like a pump your own gas kind of thing in the middle of the night. So he has no cell phone reception. He gets in his car. He drives for a while. He finally gets reception. He contacts, I think it was whoever was Highway Patrol or somebody, and tells them what happened. And they said, yeah, that's been happening a lot out here.
Wow.
So this wasn't a new thing. It wasn't anything he was expecting or aware of, but just some of the things we talked about with situational awareness, paying attention, having a gun, that he credits that with potentially saving his life. And he didn't have to shoot anybody.
Yeah, just think if he didn't have the gun, it'd be a different story.
It was a total ambush attack. If he hadn't been paying attention, if he didn't have the gun, could have gone much differently.
I mean, that has to be on top of the list. Those stories have to be top on the list of things that make that I know has to give you a real special feeling inside.
It does. It makes me feel like the purpose of what I do. I genuinely feel like everything we do is to help people better prepare themselves for something that we hope and pray never happens. But if it does happen, they're better prepared for it.
And I mean, you have multiple. We had one guy. He wanted to get a CCW, and he was having a hard time with licensing. It was right at the beginning when people could start getting their CCWs. So I helped clear the way. He gets a CCW. 6 months later, he has to pull from concealment. He doesn't have to pull the trigger, but he was about to be attacked. And he called me up, and he said, "Oh my gosh, it's amazing." That one story, where I was barely involved was like,
made your day.
I think I'm better than everybody. That's I think I'm better than everybody. Oh my gosh. It really just has an impact. Like holy cow. And it's just, that's got to be a really cool feeling, Bill.
Yeah, there is a purpose to that. And then, just some of the information that we share, we don't know how many people are going to adopt some of this stuff. Some people come back to me after 2 years and they go, hey, I've never even carried my gun for 2 years. And I go, okay, well, that's not helpful.
That's not good.
That was a waste of time and money.
And but they still want to have their permit just in case they decide it's going to be a day that they might be attacked, and then they're going to carry it. That they're going to have, maybe they have a dream ahead of time, and it's time to carry the gun.
It's like CCW roulette.
Yes, it is. So those guys, I say, hey, get some pepper spray. Carry that all the time. But I had another student just recently in class that lives in a nice part of San Diego County, and he had somebody wander into his house middle of the afternoon. And because he followed some of my guidelines, he was carrying his gun on his person in his house. And the guy came in kind of disheveled from one of the canyons near his house, and he pointed his gun at him and held him there till the police got there, and the police came in and arrested him.
Wow.
So
now, who's like your best student, or maybe your favorite best student? Like, anybody come to mind? Like
Michael Schwartz.
I knew it. I knew it. I knew I was.
I've had that discussion before because I have I'm really impressed with a lot of my students because they're other things that they do. They're not just shooting a gun or anything. They have they're very, very intelligent. I'm still talking about you, Mike.
Yeah, good looking. I knew that's coming.
Handsome, good looking,
Sure.
well dressed. They drive nice cars. No, they have an analytical mindset. So I hate to say it, but a lot of times I think they're just smarter than me. So they share a lot of information about what they're doing and things they're focused on and things that are important to them. And that lets me kind of adapt the training lessons to their environment. What are you normally traveling? Are you normally at home? What's the circumstance?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Just think what you could have done for Alec Baldwin.
Oh, man.
Does that kind of keep you up at night thinking about that situation?
Not at all. It makes me wonder why people stayed on that set, and then it makes me wonder how 1883 was so good and there was no problems because they had a professional staff.
Hey, if you've watched Biden's State of the Union address, which I did not, he talked about ghost guns, universal background checks, assault weapon bans, allowing gun manufacturers to be sued for criminals using the product, and Kevlar armored deer. Who wrote this? And then he told you
he said that.
Did he really?
Yeah,
Yes,
he
he
said
did.
that. It was pretty bad.
Kevlar armored deer.
That's a direct quote from our president.
Yeah. It didn't even whisper that one.
No.
Man, am I glad I didn't watch it.
Kevlar armored deer.
Yeah, right. And then he told you that these laws do not infringe on the Second Amendment. Either he doesn't know what infringe means, or he thinks we don't know what this means. Either way, that's not good. I think he had brain freeze from eating ice cream before he went on stage.
Well,
The president does not get the Second Amendment.
no.
So what can you do about it? Join a Second Amendment activist group like the San Diego County Gun Owners. San Diego SDCGO organizes fun events where you can connect with other gun owners and help get more Pro-2 Amendment officials elected. Join today. Go to gunownersradio.com/join. He actually said that?
Yeah, he said it. It was pretty bad. The whole speech was horrible. It was really scary, I got to tell you.
Did you watch the whole thing?
I honestly did not.
Did you throw up?
No, I didn't watch the whole thing. I watched highlights where somebody boiled down. They basically took, what was it, like 45 minutes of BS and boiled it down to about 5.5 minutes of BS. Wow. So I just kind of, through all the pomp and circumstance was thrown out, and they just kind of edited down to the meat and potatoes. And, man, it was some pretty rancid meat. And the potatoes weren't all that good either. Hey, so we're talking to Bill Desy from CCWUSA. Bill, one of the things I like about you very, very much and respect about the way you do business is you take other people's classes a lot.
Yeah.
And one of the things I kind of makes me laugh. I'm a little critical of all of us here in the gun world. We tend to make mountains out of molehills, and everybody thinks they're the only one that's right. There's only one way to skin a cat, and I know exactly the way, and everybody else is wrong. You are not that guy at all. You go and you train with other people. You have a lot of respect for other trainers. You're open-minded to changing or tweaking techniques, that sort of thing. Talk about that. Why is that important to you?
Well, I'm a big fan of Bruce Lee, and he was kind of a non-traditional martial artist that basically said, no way is way, no method is totally complete. So you learn different things and you adapt them to yourself. So there's self-defense, there's situation awareness, and self-awareness. And self-awareness is understanding that your attributes, your physical attributes, have to kind of be part of your overall safety plan. So what works for one person, if I said, hey, Mike, you're just going to pin the guy against the wall and punch him in the stomach, give that to an 85-pound or 85-year-old, 95-pound woman, and that's not going to work well. So it depends on the individual attributes of an individual on what's going to work for them. And there's like you said, I like cats, so I don't skin cats, but there's a million ways to solve a problem, and I wouldn't say one of them is right in every situation. So there's different things we learn, and I've learned a lot more as an instructor by taking, not instructor classes, but by taking classes as a student, because I learn how other instructors teach and what sticks with me, what resonates with other students, and what actually gets results, so I can become a better instructor by being a better student.
And you are a good student. You're an instructor. You're a professional, and you are a good student. I've been in classes with you, and you are indistinguishable from the rest of the. You're not the guy going, well, this is the way I do it.
I'm not there to tell people. I'm paying to go to a class to learn your way of doing it, and then, and I'll give you credit if I like your way. And usually I learn something, something sometimes really profound about teaching, training, methods, grip, stance, fundamentals, and anything. You're never too old to learn new things. And I think that's the problem with a lot of instructors. They get stagnated. They go, hey, I've been teaching this since the 1950s, and it worked then, so it works now, and we're just going to keep doing it this way because I know it worked in 1962. The reality is everything evolves. Martial arts evolved. Shooting, to me, is a martial art. It's evolved as well. Concealed carry's evolved. Types of guns have evolved. Shooting methods have evolved. And if you look at the top shooters in the nation, they've highly evolved. They're setting new records. The capabilities are amazing. And then also just adult learning methods, how people learn things by doing them more than they learn things by watching a video or hearing about it or telling someone, okay, here's what we're going to do: stance, grip, side alignment, trigger press, follow through, and they're going to go, okay, I understand. But they're going to learn. They're going to learn and retain a lot more by actually doing it, hands-on, feeling what they're doing. That one-on-one type environment is really helpful for getting people to retain information and then be able to apply it themselves, and then asking questions. So I ask a lot of questions in private lessons.
So I think the theme here of the interview is what to do when you're taking a class, and it's really more about taking a first class, right? It was what we kind of talked about. But I think this is an important point to make. This is how you take a class. Whether you're a brand new shooter, experienced, or an expert or whatever, that's how you take a class. I take classes with people, or I have taken classes with people that are experienced. And there's nothing more annoying than the guy that's, they taught isosceles. Could you believe it? I'm all about Weaver. All right, man. Just learn their thing and then either do it or don't. But, and I very much respect that about you, Bill. I think it's an important point. That's how you take a gun class.
And I don't know if you're aware that the Weaver stance was actually created by Sheriff Jack Weaver because he had a shoulder injury. He couldn't straighten his arms, so he couldn't really do isosceles. So it worked better for him. But it also worked better for a lot of people shooting at distance back then because everyone at that time was shooting from the hip. They were hip shooting like cowboy shooting.
Right.
And that's evolved as well. So we have sports psychologists and physiologists and physics involved in shooting where there's mathematical equations and engineers involved, and there's a lot more to it than just like hold the gun, point here, aim there, press the trigger. So there's a lot of diagnosing of fundamental issues that once they're improved, all of a sudden we have a much better result. So it's evolved substantially, and I get that only because I attend classes and I learn from other instructors.
At some point, you almost have to I don't know, maybe, I don't know if you guys, I don't know, Joe, maybe you'll disagree with me here, but at some point in your shooting career, you almost have to. I think you have to like get rid of the idea of isosceles modified or Weaver. At some point you have to go. Look, I need to be able to pull the trigger and hit the target no matter where my feet are.
Well, people are surprised when I have them shoot right hand, left hand. They're surprised when I have them shoot sitting down. I just had some private students shooting laying on their back, on their side, different positions, inside a vehicle, outside a vehicle, underneath a vehicle. A lot of different things people have never even thought of that they're capable of doing without even thinking about it, because they're still aligning the gun with the target, manipulating the trigger. So just putting people in those situations is a learning environment for them, and it really it grows their whole thought process a lot faster. Getting into a stance. How many real fights do you see on the internet where somebody gets into a karate stance?
Yeah, I know.
Not very many.
Yeah. Well, that's how you know that's a real good indicator that might be staged. might be a staged video. Might not be real. Well, okay. So Jackson's been shooting for at least a year now. How long have you been shooting now, Jackson? Like a year?
About a year and a half.
About a year and a half. He's just getting into competition. He's just starting to learn, how to compete. What advice do you have for someone like Jackson that's just starting to they've taken a bunch of classes. Now they're, getting into the sport of it. What advice do you have?
Have fun with it. The biggest thing is people get, and I'd say more adults get spun up in their head, and they can choke out a little bit because they're too focused on results versus enjoying the process or having fun with it and enjoying what you're doing. And then also making a learning process, because actually we learn more from making a mistake. If we make a mistake, we can learn, hey, I did something. Look, I got all these good hits, but I missed the target. What did I do? And make a correction for the next time. So it becomes a learning and growing process, but also you're enjoying it, so it's fun. So it's not, doesn't become work or too challenging or too much pressure. We see a lot of times people use the timer as we call it a mind eraser, because you know the stage, you kind of know exactly what you're going to do, where you're going to reload, where you're going to shoot, and then all of a sudden the timer goes off, you forgot what you're supposed to do. So I'd say, again, with shooting, with competition, with all that, it's 95% mindset, 5% mechanics. With the training you have, your mechanics are probably really sound, really good. I know Thomas, the guy you train with, fantastic trainer. So if you can have those fundamentals, your stance, your grip, your sight alignment, your trigger press, all the fundamentals are there, then it's just a matter of putting it all together and allowing it to happen. It's like the difference between practicing a sport and playing a sport. If you're practicing soccer, you're doing a bunch of drills. If you're playing soccer, you're playing the game, you're enjoying it.
What question? Do you have a question for him, Jackson? What's your question that you like to ask?
He doesn't have a question.
What's your favorite gun? Remember?
What's your favorite gun?
There you go.
My favorite gun is the one I have in my hand. No, that's my universal answer.
Yuck.
That's a big question, because I say my favorite gun is a SOCOM 16 .308 caliber rifle.
Wow.
But I can't carry that with me. So I have favorite handguns, favorite shotguns. Benelli M2 is my favorite shotgun. Handguns, I don't want to contradict myself, but because I do work out of the Glock store, but I currently really like the SIG 365 XL with a Wilson grip with a Romeo Zero red dot optic on it. That's probably my favorite.
You could work at a Chevy dealership and like a Mustang. It's okay.
I do like Mustangs.
See, I knew you did.
What about that TRP? Do you still have that TRP?
I do not. That was gifted to my son.
Oh, that's right. I remember that story.
Yeah. And it's,
Did he like
Right
he
here,
still has it.
Right
Still
here
has
in
it.
California.
something weird happened though? Didn't he like rattle can it or something? Or
No, he took it to the armory and Cerakoted it, but he Cerakoted the whole thing. The sights,
Everything.
the inside, the outside. So it had like about a 40-pound trigger after that.
Oh,
So we had to do a lot of work on it to get it back to normal.
So Bill, this is a question I've always wondered about. Say you get somebody that's up in age and their eyesight is not as what it used to be. And let's say they have one eye that's for distance and one eye for up close. But yet, let's say it's the left eye that's for distance, but they're right-handed. How do you compensate for something like that?
Well, that's not actually a problem, because what you want to see is the sights. You want to see the sights on the gun. So the close-up, the 18 inches out in front of your face is where you're looking at. You're focused on that front sight. Now, the other things that really help people when your vision gets to the point where you go, really have a hard time seeing my sights, We've got really good success with red dot optics. It's not for everybody, but it's an option. And then lasers are not a bad option if they're sighted into your gun. You put the laser on the grip or on the gun. Crimson Trace has some great products, and there's a lot of laser lights available that you can put a light and laser combo on a gun, and then that laser tells you the gun is lined up with your target. So for someone who is not going to invest a whole lot of time in training, the laser is, I don't want to say it's kind of a crutch, and it is battery operated, so it could fail, but it is a alternate sighting method that allows you to line up your gun with a target.
Gotcha.
The red dot is a little different. It does require training and practice to get better with the red dot, but I see the learning curve with red dots going a little bit faster, so people starting with a red dot do really well. I still encourage them to learn how to use iron sights for backup, or use iron sights just so they know how.
Yeah, because you never know.
But that red dot is it's magical. It's a magical fairy dust inside the red dot that aligns the gun with the target and just works really well. We've been using it for rifles for years, and just in the last, I'd say 5 years, it's been more applied to handguns. I've only been doing it for about 2 years on a handgun, and I really like it. That's kind of my choice, mostly because I haven't had any failures yet.
Awesome.
Thanks for watching this clip from Gun Owners Radio. You can watch us live every Sunday from 4 to 6 p.m. California time, right here on our YouTube channel, or if you're in the San Diego area, you can listen to us on 1170 a.m. We're also available on your favorite podcast platform for free. Don't forget to like and subscribe so that you can help restore and protect the Second Amendment, not just in California, but across the country.